It took a lot of deliberation and thinking, but ultimately it was my mentor himself who said, if you really believe in this and feel like you can change the world, then it's worth failing in it as well. And that was the moment that I decided to start Kubik.
Kidus, why do you do what you do?
It matters. It matters beyond me. It matters for people that usually don't have the opportunity or choice to make the type of decisions that I've been privileged to do or to make. And that's good enough for me to work on ventures like the one that we're building here at Kubik.
Could you walk us through how you started Kubik and how the journey began?
Yeah. Kubik started way before Kubik was even a thing. It was about 2018. I was working at UNICEF. I worked a lot on software, frontier tech type of work. And I was actually at a conference in Prague for drones. And I got a call from my mentor. He was the UNICEF Côte d'Ivoire country director. And he didn't even waste his breath to say hi. He just said, "Where are you?" And I told him where I am. He said, "Okay, you need to come to Côte d'Ivoire immediately after that trip." Told him that's not possible. He didn't take no for an answer. And before you knew it, I took a 20-hour-long trip all the way to Abidjan to spend one day to see a school that was made out of plastic bricks. That changed a lot for me because at this point I had spent over 5 years traveling to over 40 countries all over the world, from Latin America to East Asia and everything in between. And one of the things that really conflicted me was how I was working a lot to reach rural, hard to reach communities. And yet what I was seeing was this emergence of mega cities, even in the least developed countries. And the plight of low-income communities was really being affected by it more than in rural areas. And I really did not know how I should be taking that or what I could be doing about it. Coincidentally, around that same time, there was a landslide in the largest landfill here in Ethiopia. And I read about it in the news, very shocked that, my beautiful Addis Ababa had this massive landfill that was actually affecting the lives of people as well. So everything kind of resonated with me, and I decided to collaborate with them and build a factory for UNICEF in Côte d'Ivoire. Fast forward a few years later, we had a factory that built over 500 classrooms all over the country using recycled plastic waste. And as many things go, especially in my life, I didn't see that as the success. The success for me was, how does this thing grow? And how does it grow beyond Côte d'Ivoire? How does this grow beyond schools? Because these are the same problems that the rest of the world, including my country, have faced. And it took a lot of deliberation and thinking, but ultimately it was my mentor himself who said, if you really believe in this and feel like you can change the world, then it's worth failing in it as well. And that was the moment that I decided to start Kubik. So when my life became about trash, I became very obsessed with it, obviously. There's probably two things that I dove very deeply into. The first one is that all plastics aren't created equal. And that was super important to understand. There's many different types of plastic, but at the end of the day, there's 7 that are commonly used. So think of everything from your plastic water bottles to your plastic bags to your pipes to your plastic chairs. These are all different types of plastic. And understanding this was super important because when you ask yourself, why aren't we recycling? It really comes down to how expensive or how difficult it is to convert certain types of plastic into something else, like a water bottle or a plastic brick. So the moment that I understood that, and the moment that we started to understand that there's certain things that are being recycled and collected and others that aren't, it really did give us a better insight into waste collection as well. People will only do work for things that have value, right? So that also works for waste picking. People are not picking waste for the sake of it. It's because they believe that thing could be sold and they can make money off of it. So unless there isn't a buyer on the other end of that value chain, then it won't be picked. So it ends up in a landfill. It could end up in rivers, on farmland, in places where it shouldn't. And those are the moments that really guided a lot of what we wanted to do around the bricks and the schools that we were building as well. We understood that we shouldn't be focusing on things that everyone else was picking. We should really be focused on what isn't being picked and find ways of making it cheap and easy to convert it into that brick. And I think that was the big aha moment for us as well. On top of that, though, waste collection and just waste management in general is a fairly informal, very disproportionate sector. The people that are doing the hard work probably make up 80 to 90% of the workforce. Most of them happen to be women. Most of them happen to be young or mothers or both. And then they are selling it to what are called aggregators. So these are people that already have the infrastructure to buy, store, and sell in bulk to buyers like Kubik. And those guys, and mostly they are men, so they are guys, they are selling it for anywhere from 5 to 50 times the price that they bought that trash for. So as you can see already, the more you're going up that value chain, the more unfair it becomes on cost. So one of the things we wanted to do at UNICEF and that we've continued to do now at Kubik is find ways of going directly to that collector and providing them with demand that they can sell to directly and make it easy for them to collect a lot, to have the infrastructure to do that in a very easy and efficient way. By doing that, we achieve two things. We economically empower them. We can give them a lot more money than they've been making. That helps them to also think about other types of services or other types of things that they could do. And because they're women, and science has it that the best, most investable asset class are women, you're also investing in something that goes beyond your business. You are investing into a community that these women are going to be reinvesting into, whether it's for their children or for their household in general. But then it's also making it a lot fairer for the buyer, right? To do this, invest in them, buy it for not a horrendous price, and also be able to transfer that lower cost into a very competitive price that we can be selling to real estate developers.
The process of taking that into building material, could you describe briefly how that actually works?
Absolutely. I'll introduce a few words and I'll explain it as I go along. So the first is this notion of rigid versus flexible plastic. And it is exactly how it sounds. So rigid stuff is really hard to bend. It easily breaks. So those are your plastic chairs. Those are your car bumpers, right? Those are rigid plastics. And there are different technical terms for them, but ultimately they're rigid. And then there's flexible plastics. So those are your packaging wrappers, your bags, that type of stuff. It's not breakable, but you can tear them apart, right? What we do is we have a formula that combines various proportions of these rigid and flexible plastic types. We obviously clean them, we mix them, we treat them with a formula that makes them safe to use so they don't catch fire, for example. And then we use something called extrusion. And this is a very standard terminology in the plastic industry, but ultimately what it means is that you're taking plastic, you're putting it through a heated, gigantic screw, and it melts on itself through friction, right? And it comes out on the other end as a paste that we're able to then cast into different molds and make our product. So once that's done, though, the beauty of what we do is we make walls. So all of these different parts are like Legos. So you can easily assemble these walls in the way that you want or that our client wants and completely avoid the need for cement or other types of polluting, very expensive building materials. So technically, we always think about our work by square meter of wall space. But in general, for 100 square meter wall, which is about the size of a small house, we can build it in 5 days. Typically, this can take anywhere from 3 to 7 weeks if you are using cement and concrete. So we're significantly reducing the time required to build a lot of homes very quickly.
In terms of your business model, who's your actual target market and how do you make money?
We sell to real estate developers. These are the folks that really feel the pain when it comes to any kind of change within the building materials sector, whether it's from cost or availability. And they're the ones that you need to attract to be able to also make affordable homes, right? It doesn't matter whether you are selling this to the government is still going to contract out a developer. So, what we do is we talk to them, we understand what they're looking for, we're able to price it out, and then we're able to manufacture all of the building blocks required for them to make those walls on site. And granted that our product is very tough, it's very safe and easy to transport, we're able to do all of this within the span of their project schedule. Our product needs no maintenance, right? There's several things that building materials usually require that we don't. We don't require water, right? So you usually see water needed to plaster a wall. We don't need to do that. And when it comes to maintenance, there's such poor quality in plastering that once you paint over it, it can create these blobs. So that's where maintenance comes in. That's not an issue for us. So literally, we are also being able to reduce the maintenance cost of a developer because once they have been able to assemble it, there's nothing else required. And this does not degrade for over 100 years because, again, this is plastic that we are using.
So would you say that the lifespan is 100 years projected?
Over 100 years. And we've also taken measures to protect various environmental degradation elements that can happen, such as sunlight, corrosion, obviously fire, that is already embedded in our product, so that does not happen as well.
Since it's an entrepreneurship channel, for someone that is coming up and has these ideas about solving these big, massive problems in society, what's your advice to them on where to start and how to actually go about taking that idea and turning it into a business?
Start with the problem, understand how many people are affected by it, and how much they would pay to not have that problem again, right? I think there's a trapping, especially for very brilliant, tech-minded entrepreneurs, to already jump to the solution and think about how this great thing that they've learned or have worked on can be applicable. And sometimes it will work, but it's really important to keep yourself honest and humble and see what role you can play in usually a very complex ecosystem within a market, right? And you don't have to tackle everything. Just try to find that one thing that can solve many other problems along the way and focus on how to solve that. And over time, you are able to get to something that can do that. It might not be perfect, but it is a start. And that's obviously what's called an MVP. Founders, the best founders that I've seen, listen a lot. They listen to their clients, they listen to their team. And that's probably the most important action you should be taking as a founder, because your role should really be to make very difficult decisions. And unless you hear and understand what other people's feedback or understanding of the world you're working in is, then you're only listening to yourself and you're going to quickly fail that way.
Amazing piece of advice. Final question. What is your big, hairy, audacious goal?
So I'm from Ethiopia, and I would say that I've had a very privileged background compared to many other Ethiopians. And I've also had parents that have not only invested in my education and well-being, but I've also instilled this mindset that I need to pay that investment forward to others that didn't have that. And I already know that I will always be working on things that help others that don't have the opportunity to do things on their own. I always want to unlock opportunity and choice. My background professionally has dictated that. I've worked for UNICEF and the World Bank. I'm an entrepreneur now, but I definitely want to be leading that path of how I can help others. And I really do believe that it's the collective investment that you continue to pay forward that actually changes the world. It's not just you by yourself.
Amazing. Kidus, thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and I want to acknowledge you for you going out there. You've built Kubik and continuing to build Kubik, and rightfully so, being awarded the Startup of the Year 2022. And I just wish you all the best, and I hope that this big, audacious goal of yours does come to fruition.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.